Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to today's edition of Tales from Outer Space, where I take stories from across the internet and read them for your entertainment. This particular story is called When Humans Human, written by Farmwitch4275. Entry Log 1. Kraken Eld, Jacudian Ambassador to the Human Alliance, Stardate Human Year 2086. It has been over 3 centuries since I accepted this commission to work with the Human Alliance, and even though I have known them for that long, they still surprise me to a shocking extent. A highly diverse species with so many different cultures congealed into one staggering mass of 100 billion strong, settles alongside all the galaxy's different species. Humanity was and still remains the driving force behind the rapidly growing Federation's power and might. The strange, gaunt, high-gravity race of bipedal apes took the galaxy by complete surprise, not only due to their appearance, but also due to their surprising strength. In barely 40 years of their time here, they have integrated seamlessly with species previously thought inhospitable. Planets thought harsh and unusable supported massive colonies of millions of humans and the richness of the industries that these worlds provided. Humans, as it later turned out, had an affinity for members of other species, and by staggering luck, they had a 1 in a billion reproductive system that was robust enough that they could actually interbreed with most mammalian species in the galaxy, and 1 or 2 of the reptilians as well. Humanity's capabilities in terms of engineering surpassed ours in a matter of decades, and due in terms to the Federation, they shared it with us. This is primarily due to the tribal nature of the race, and they are well known for petty squabbles and minor disputes that results in skirmishes or outright wars, but would never come to full-scale attacks. Maybe a warning shot or 2, a small exchange of fire to disable shield arrays, but never more than that. When questioned about these incidents, human ambassadors and leaders would simply say something on the lines of, meh, local tensions, pirates, idiots, god-botherers, and idealists that randomly decide to slug it out one day. Just ignore them. They run out of steam eventually and bugger off back to where they came from. We really cannot, owing to how humans never turned their guns on us. We were fine with it, so long as they never got us involved. Everything about the humans confused and amazed us. They had, during first contact exchanges, given us reels upon reels of their historical archives, and what we had now was essentially a marginally watered-down version of what humanity once was, hardened like battleship hull. Entry Log 2. Human Expansion. Owing to their ability to breed with a majority of the species in the galaxy, human society, cultures, and customs became part and parcel for Federation species, almost to the point where started getting cults forming in small pockets in the outer rims worshipping this aspect. Humanity, surprisingly enough, even though they technically were the deity being worshipped in these cults, were the first ones to clamp down on them, disbanding or outright attacking them. Humans retained a lot of their individual national cultures long after their arrival into space. Many of their soldiers still carried blades, swords, knives, and other such primitive weapons that most members of the galactic species considered worthless or obsolete. But humans wield these weapons with devastating effect, as witnessed in a few incidents that military conflicts seen during their short time in the Federation. Technological advancement in terms of military and civilian development outstretched the rest of the galaxy by, to quote an expression, a country mile. Human creativity and the natural drive for both omnivorous species' capacity for greed and the species' natural curiosity drove them to accomplish tasks and tech we never would have imagined. Humans and their concept of percussive maintenance, or smack it until it worked, was all something that took us by surprise, especially seeing as most of the time it actually worked. For a few decades, a long time in human years apparently, we simply took it at face value and never questioned it. As the expression goes, never look a gift horse in the mouth. Entry Log 3. Capacity for evil. They were not complete angels or paragons, of course. Many a time, more than other races, especially during the early years, they were extremely aggressive in their colonization efforts, going to active war with many nations over territorial disputes, corporate conflicts, or other such disputes. Either they would win by a bare margin, or they would be routed and sent off in pieces. One such occasion was with the Tabrisco incident, where, from what I could discern, was a human corporation, a private entity separate from the Alliance and the Federation, known as Cyber Attack Industries. It had laid claim to a particular star system, a star system already settled by its current inhabitants, the Hasaki Triumvirate. It was here that humanity showed its capacity for callous greed, and why so much emphasis is placed in society on the rejection of corporate ideals. It also showed us a modicum of respectability. When someone was being a dick, they had no trouble fucking them. The corporation, or simply corpos, gathered a fleet of about 40 ships, 2 of them cruisers, and 1 arc ship. They proceeded, without orders, to bypass most security legislation, driving their way across the galaxy and arriving in the system of Tabrisco. 2 terrestrial planets, 1 oceanic planet in the habitable zone, 1 gas giant, 2 ice planets, and 1 newborn molten planet. An unremarkable system by all accounts. There were thousands just like it throughout the galaxy. The corpos warped in and sent out a mass broadcast. This is a public declaration on behalf of the Cybertech Corporation. Your occupation of the star system is now null and void. You will evacuate from this area immediately. You have a standard week to respond. The sheer bastarding balls of them. The human representative was contacted and informed of the situation. The human ambassador, a gaunt, tall, white-haired gent by the name of Hardy Arlight, had a sneaky, unmistakable grin on his face as he spoke to the ambassador of the Hasaki Triumvirate. So, what exactly is the issue here? The Hasaki ambassador, Science on Shores, was by no means amused. The lizard-like reptile's blue scales flared in anger as he spoke. For the 3rd time, we have a human fleet calling itself the Cybertech Corporation, demanding that we surrender one of our colony worlds. I demand an explanation. Hardy simply let out a chuckle, as if he was suppressing the desire to laugh. Oh, corporate rats, huh? Well, they are a private entity. There's nothing we can do to stop you, or them. Sings on Shoes was somewhat confused, but more upset than angry. What? Hardy simply said that typical sly. I'm up to something sneaky grin on his face that we had become so accustomed to seeing. What I'm saying, Ambassador, is that whatever you decide to do with them is entirely your decision. Sings on Shores was astonished. The situation was a full invasion by galactic standards. It was the equivalent of a declaration of war. But, they're your people. You speak for them. Hardy's smile disappeared, and his demeanor changed to one of seriousness. Mr. Ambassador, with all due respect, I remind you of Federation Colonization Legislation number 758, paragraph 3, and I quote, "The first claimant to any star system that has the capacity to maintain any industry on that planet has full and absolute control of its industry and inevitably its defense. Is the sole and exclusive claimant of that star system," Hardy said, and looked at his counterpart. "Of course I remember the damn legislation. I helped sign that into law 100 years ago. What the hell are you talking about?" Sings on Shores demanded, his scales clustering between breaths. "What I'm saying, sir, is that private entities known as corporations and other private entities can form outside of the Alliance jurisdiction. They can get rich and get an ego the size of a cargo freighter, and then suddenly decide I'm God now, I can do what I want, and go on a rampage. We allow it for reasons that should be obvious. We do, however, disavow." Hardy's last word was a statement took Hasaki ambassador by surprise. What? The entire concept for Hasaki of private corporations operating outside of jurisdiction was as much a foreign concept to him as it could be imagined. "We allow these entities to buy their own fleets, set up shop, and do what they do. They return to the Alliance eventually, one way or another. It's just business. But sometimes the rich and wealthy develop a god complex, and it is up to the normal people of the galaxy to remind them of what they really are, lest they do stupid things." Hardy responded. He looked into the monitor and visibly closed one of his eyes in a cheeky manner, with a smile returned. Sings on Shoes went silent for a moment, as if processing the information. "Understood, Ambassador?" "One more thing," Hardy said. His demeanor shifted again, to a dead serious and absolute severity. "Do not fire on that arc ship. Those people signed up for a new life, not an execution. There are children on board. We'll see to it if they get passage to a new colony world, one way or another. But the Corpo fleet, enjoy the salvage." Sings on Shoes acknowledged his own sinister grin and closed the call. A few hours later, a very heavily armed war fleet from the Triumvirate warped into the star system, outnumbering the heavily outgunned Corpo fleet. As expected, sensing danger, the arc ship immediately performed an FTL emergency jump and vanished to the borders of the system where a human alliance fleet was casually waiting for them. The corporate fleet was nothing short of obliterated by plasma cannons and heavy weapons fire from Triumvirate Dreadnought and its escorts. Nothing left but salvage and slag floating hopelessly in the expanse where a salvage crew from the colony appeared and went to town. 3,000 people were killed in that fight. 2 triumvirate ships were lost, totaling 600 losses. Battleships, no less. The rest were human losses. Corvettes, pickets, escort ships, and mostly small, low-quality frigates crewed by corporate drones and contracted slave workers. As Hardy said, nothing worth keeping. The human ambassador and agents explained that rich corporations or other such entities would go mad with power, gather followers or create clone armies, highly illegal clone armies, and attempt to claim what they wanted. Human Alliance officers always knew what was going on and made sure that one way or another, in a fair and balanced manner, they would always lose. In a fair and balanced manner. That sentence is almost always expressed in a certain sadistic glee. Entry 4. Unbelievable charity. This event in the stark contrast to the New Haven incident that took place some 12 years later. Humanity was now at the forefront of galactic politics and economics. New Haven was in fact a Bakari settlement, and I had been called in to help reinforce their trade position with the local area and help them along. I was in the orbital station garrisoning the colony when I heard a call to action. The communications arrays suddenly exploded with SOS signals, emergency alerts and warnings of every kind that a staggering earthquake hit one of the continents. Seismologists put the quake in a massive 11.4 on the scale, enough to tilt the planet's axis 3 degrees, open 2 new fault lines, slow the planet's rotation speed by almost a full second, and cause 7 subsequent volcanic detonations across the tectonic plate. 29 cities were impacted, and 150 million lives were at stake. Before I could do anything, however, a message interrupted all communications directed at the local garrison. Distress signal received. This is the Alliance Fleet, Sons of the Dawn responding. Admiral Becker Cray reporting, requesting permission to enter Federation space. I was on the bridge with one station captain helping him organize the response at the time. And, without thinking, I immediately jumped onto the communicator in response. This is Federation Ambassador Karakan. Eld responding. Permission granted. The station captain was somewhat annoyed with me. It was not exactly polite to supplant his authority. I was only an ambassador, so he scolded me for it. How dare you do that? This is my station. You dare break with protocol like that? Captain Sandaris, please. This is an emergency situation, I responded, trying to stay calm. Before, however, we could argue this point, 100 dropships, cargo ships, and 2 planetary cruisers blasted past the station, making us jump in surprise as they whizzed past us. Moments later, the massive hull of one of the Alliance's 2-kilometer-long planetary assault carriers rumbled past the station, its sheer size and speed causing the windows and plating on the station's hull to rattle. Very few people outside the Alliance have seen one of those magnificent beasts, and as it slipped past us, we got a glimpse as to exactly why. A strange ship with a triangular or diamond-shaped hull, hangar bays on the sides, heavy armor plating with dozens of shield generators dotted and meter-thick armor plating. Weapons, seen only on dreadnoughts or battleships, lined its side hull under the bridge section, and more small craft were being hastily ejected from its side-mounted hangars. Its most terrifying component was what was mounted at the front, a spiral-mounted ion cannon. I could very clearly see the telltale sign of an emitter array barely sticking out the front end. It entered the planet's atmosphere flawlessly, and we watched in awe as a full army of humans flooded out of the ship's hull as it touched ground, causing a puff of dust. 2 or more of these PAC-class ships followed, then 3 more after that, and 1 more lagging behind with various cargo ships and drop transports seemingly welded to its outer hull followed, all within moments of each other. 2 more smaller craft known as trade frigates or droid frigates, ships whose superstructures primarily consisted of communications arrays and antennae, appeared and entered the station's orbital patterns and began transmitting commands and orders, organizing the planet's scattered and broken emergency signals. The captain and I looked at each other, mouths agape at the sight we had just witnessed. Not just one of them, but 7. How many of them did humanity have? 134, and still counting, I heard a voice behind me say. What? Pardon? I asked, now looking at the human marine standing in the control room. That's how many of those ships we have. 134 by last count, with dry docks and shipyards in Alliance space working to produce another 600 within the next 10 years, as per our trade agreements. 100 of those ships will be handed over to our allies and trade partners, he said with a smile, handing me a data pad. He must have heard the voice in my head somehow, or he just simply knew what the question was, probably having been asked it 1,000 times.
Thank you,
I cleared my throat and straightened my shoulders, attempting to compose myself.
Carry on, soldier. We will coordinate with your teams on the ground and translate what we can. Not everyone on the planet understands galactic standard language yet, so we will do our best. Patch us into your comms link, and we will assist where we can.
Sir, yes, sir. The humans saluted, then immediately charged back out of the station. Moments later, a new group of humans appeared and, without orders, began to redirect communications and show us body cam footage from the ground. What followed was the single largest and most grueling disaster relief campaign in 70 years. 20,000 ships, 200 million tons of medical supplies, 600 million tons of food and water, 2 million humans working to save the lives of 100 million, 3.5 months of work. After all that was said and done, as many lives saved as possible, human constructor fleets appeared and with another surprise. They called it manufactoriums, city-sized ships with no armament or defensive equipment, but cargo containers, construction drones, and building hardware. 22 of them. It wasn't a ship in the traditional sense. To be honest, it was more like a children's block building set with giant engines. Big, fat, squared boxes with various patterns of armor plating mounted on a set of giant starship thrusters. They landed on the planet's surface and began to, for lack of a better term, unpack themselves. They landed, then a system of, robots started to unpack the blocky monster. Within hours, the ships had disappeared and turned into organized and perfectly geometric patterns. They essentially made a pre-packaged city and flew it out as the replacement for the city that was destroyed. Millions of homes now almost instantly rehoused. Now all the humans asked for in return was that we honor trade agreements and maintain the alliance. And so here we stand, many decades into the greatest and hopefully longest-lasting friendship in the history as humanity rapidly carves itself into our hearts and minds with their increasingly erratic and interesting behavior. They are the only species in galactic history, that we are aware of anyway, that do not immediately attempt to forge a galactic hegemony or engage in a genocide without due cause. They are also one extremely few species that everybody likes. Most like their presence or enjoy their company. Some simply ignore them. The few that don't like them are quick to change their minds when rescuers and negotiators arrive when a problem shows up. Humans are here to stay, hopefully for a damn long time. Final log Kraken Ald, Jacunian ambassador to the Human Alliance. Stardate, Human Year, 2386. End of story. I'd quickly like to thank our Tier 5 channel members, Casper Arnholtz, John Creighton, Manatharia, 050, Dragzoon WRE, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.